Hey, welcome everybody. Today I'm going to share one of my favorite new books with you, and it's by an author named Mora, and it's called Thank You, Amu. On the corner of First Street and Long Street, on the very top floor, Amu was cooking a thick red stew in a big fat pot for a nice evening meal. She seasoned and stirred it and took a small taste. What a delicious stew, she said to herself. Tonight's dinner will surely be the best I've ever had. And with that, Amu put down her spoon and she went to read a book before supper. As the thick red stew simmered on the stove, its scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall and toward the street and around the block until someone was at the door. When Amu opened it, she saw a little boy. Little boy, Amu exclaimed, what brings you to my home? I was playing my race car down the hall when I smelled the most delicious smell, the boy replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Stew, he sighed. That sure sounds yummy. Amu thought for a moment. She was saving her stew for dinner, but she had made quite a bit. It wouldn't hurt to share. Would you like some? The little boy nodded, and so Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the little boy said, and he went on his way. So this is going to be a repeating pattern book. Can you guess what might keep happening in this book? Let's see if we can figure it out together. With that, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. As she read, her thick red stew, scrumptious scent, wafted out the window and out the door and down the hall and toward the street and around the block until someone was at the door. When Amu opened the door, this time she saw a police officer. What do you think that police officer is going to want? I think he's going to want some of that stew. Let's see what she wants. Miss Police Officer, Amu exclaimed. What brings you to my home? I was on duty down the street when I smelled the most delicious smell, Miss Police Officer replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Ah, stew, she said, and her mouth watered. That sounds mighty tasty. Amu thought for a moment. There was still enough to share. Would you like some? The police officer nodded. Once again, Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the officer said, and she went on her way. And so for a second time, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. And sure enough, as she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, around the block until again someone was at Amu's door. This time, when she opened it, she saw a hot dog vendor. So a hot dog vendor is someone who has a little cart that's out on the street, and they sell hot dogs out of it for people who want to eat. Mr. Hot Dog Vendor, Amu exclaimed, what brings you to my home? I was selling my hot dog down the block when I smelled the most delicious smell, Mr. Hot Dog Vendor replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Ooh, stew, the vendor licked his lips. That sounds quite delectable. So Amu spooned out some thick red stew from a big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, said the hot dog vendor, and he went on his way. Throughout the day, people from all across the neighborhood knocked on Amu's door. She fed a shop owner, a cab driver, a doctor, an actor, a lawyer, a dancer, a baker, an artist, a singer, an athlete, a bus driver, a construction worker. Even the mayor stopped by. And each time they knocked, Amu shared. Soon, can you predict what the problem's going to be now? Look at our picture. Look at our pot. Soon the sky darkened, the streetlights brightened, and it was finally time for dinner. But when Amu opened her big fat pot of thick red stew for her nice evening meal, it was empty. Amu sniffled. There goes the best dinner I ever had. Sorry and blue, she sat at the table with her empty pot until... Who could be now at the door? Amu wondered. When she opened her door, she saw the little boy and the police officer, the hot dog vendor, the shop owner, the cab driver, the doctor, the actor, the lawyer, the dancer, the baker. Why, everyone she fed today was at her door. I'm sorry, everyone, Amu sighed. My thick red stew is all gone. I have nothing left to share. The little boy tugged at Amu's sleeve. Don't worry, Amu. We are not here to ask. We are here to give. The police officer carried in a fresh salad. The mayor entered with a roast chicken. The baker brought a collection of sweet goodies. Even the little boy presented Amu with something special in a shiny red envelope. Everyone who had knocked on Amu's door that day, they squeezed inside her tiny apartment, and together they ate, danced, and celebrated. With Amu's big fat pot of thick red stew gone, her heart was now full of happiness and love. And that dinner was the best she ever had. Here you can see what the little boy had for her in his envelope. It says, thank you, Amu. No, wonderful story. I love this book. So at the end, there's an author's note. I love author's notes because it's an opportunity for the author of the book to tell us a little bit about the story. So the author, Oge Mora, tells us that in Igbo, which is the language in Nigeria, country in Africa, in Igbo, the language from Nigeria, Amu means queen. But for her growing up, it meant grandmother, because that's what she called her grandmother. And she says when her grandmother cooked, she would dance and sway her hips to the radio as she was stirring her large pot of stew. In the evening, her family would come together at the dinner table for a meal. And if a neighbor was visiting, they were invited to eat with them. If a friend stopped by, they were invited to eat with them. Everyone in the whole community was invited to eat with them, if only they wanted. And while her grandmother has since passed away, she says her giving heart has stayed with her forever. So the author says, though my grandmother's now gone, I still remember her giving heart, and it's a big part of who I am, or try to be now. She says, I see that heart in my mother and my godmother, in my teachers, my mentors, and all the other powerful women who have shaped my life. And this book is a celebration of their loving, giving spirit. And finally, she says to all of them, and to you, the reader, thank you. Nice. So this book was Thank You, Amu by Oge Mora. And if you really love this one, you should look for some other books by her. She has a second book called Saturday, which is a really good book also. Awesome. Thanks for reading with me, everybody.